the other day, knife chats with Tobias. Tobias did a little thing on his desk knife. Now I don't have a nice desk knife like his, but I do have these two that sit on my desk and get used as letter openers. But there's something interesting about both of them that I just thought I would share. One of them is this. This is a copy, a miniature copy, obviously, of a Royal Navy. You can see here the crest. Royal Naval Officer's Sword. Now I bought this because I have I have a real one, a real Royal Naval Officer's Sword. I should really have got it down off the wall, but I didn't. Which I had when I was an officer in the Royal Naval Reserve. So this is the gilt, this gold-plated gilt hilt. Should obviously be shark skin on the grip with gold wire. Mine is actually white leather with copper wire, but the gilt over brass for the lion's head, the back strap and the hilt, with the, as I say, the crown over the fouled anchor. Also this has the holes for a sword knot, and mine obviously has a sword knot. The blade is totally inauthentic. I've got the 1821 pattern on mine. The current pattern these days is based on the 1895/97, well, it's 1891 pattern, straight thrusting blade. Mine has a slightly curved sabre blade of the, I say, 1821 pattern, which to my mind is much nicer. The only downside to it is it's actually quite heavy to carry compared to the new modern lightweight ones. But mine is a proved sword. You could actually use it as a Wilkinson's sword proving slug in it. So that's the one. The other one is this one. This one is slightly interesting because I also have the sort of full-size version, though the full-size version is also quite small. So this one fits more with the knife theme of this website, this YouTube channel. Now I picked this up in Peebles in an antique shop, and I saw it and I thought, I've got one like that. I also have a full-size katana in a shiraseiya, but this one suits it better because this one has probably not horn, but horn caps on both ends. This one has stag's horn, which is proper stag's horn, on both ends. And also at the koigichi, you've got supposed to be horn and stag, I suppose. This one has genuine stag koigichi, and then this one has a little sort of katana-like blade, though, and there's something I'm going to come to in a minute. It is definitely a tanto. Yeah, I should have said really. I mean, sword folk will understand without question, but if you're a pocket knife chap, you may not know. A small knife like this is called a tanto. How big is it? Well, it's 10.5 inches long in total. Blade length we'll come to in a second. An old samurai warrior would carry a katana as his main sword. A katana usually has a blade length of around 27-28 inches in length, overall length 42 inches, something like that. He would probably then carry a second sword, a wakizashi, which would be probably 27 inches overall, a 18-inch blade. But these things are not set in stone. You would probably say a blade of more than a foot is probably a wakizashi. A blade of more than 2 feet is probably a katana. But there aren't set rules about it. What is different though, katana blades and wakizashi blades are often very similar, just different in scale. Tanto blades tend to be very different. So this particular little tanto, this one was Meiji, so it's made before 1912. And it's surprisingly not very sharp, which is odd really, because it is a proper polished blade. It also looks as though it needs a bit of cleaning. Suspect somebody's been touching it because it's got a few spots on it that weren't there before. But it's a proper heat-treated blade. You can see the ham on it. Desperate need of a clean actually. I should be doing that afterwards. Has what's called a bohai, or what you might call a blood groove, but it's a fuller. It's really designed just to lighten the blade, and it also makes it make a better noise when it whips through the air, although this being so small it tends not to make much of a noise. One thing I would like to point out though is that tantos, whether they are little ones like that or bigger ones like this, rarely if ever have a tanto blade tip, or what knife people would call a tanto blade tip. You very, very, very rarely see those on a tanto. They tend to have either a curve like this, and the blades tend not to look like little swords. This one actually does look more like a little sword, but there's no distinct line there. The boshi, or the tip of the blade, is simply a continuation of the blade. And that's normal in a tanto. So when we see what they call a tanto knife shape, it's not really a tanto shape. It's a katana or a wakizashi shape, but a small wakizashi or small katana knife size would normally be called a tanto. So it's sort of crept up. You do get tantos with a tanto blade shape, but they're very, very uncommon. It's far more common to see them simply curved like this. Also, lots of tantos are either straight. This one has a slight amount of or curve in it, but they're quite often straight and occasionally recurved, and sometimes you get really quite dramatically recurved ones, which are generally for the purpose of beheading. But while I've got this out, this is quite a nice little, so let someone to poke that makugi out with. The little peg in these things, where it's called a makugi, and it goes through what's known as the makugi ana, which is the hole that it's in. And if I had the ability to, yep, there it is, it's full now. Right, the way you take one of these to pieces, you hold the sword or knife in your hand like that, and you hit the back of your hand here, and that loosens the sword. Take that out. Inside here, never touch the blade if you can possibly avoid it. Certainly wear gloves if you're going to touch it, but usually you simply hold it by the tang, the kago, and you have a little thing here called a habaki, which is basically just to fit the sword into its scabbard and hold it there. And then you have the mei, or signature, on the blade. And certainly you can tell whether it's a katana, a sword blade, or a tachi, which is a military sword, because if you're looking at the samurai wearing his sword, the katana is worn with a curve up like that, and so the mei, or signature, is shown on that side, so it's the left side of the blade if you were holding it. If it's a tachi, he tends to wear it slung along his side, and then the mei would be on that side, the outside. So when you see just a blade in a museum and they say it's a katana and the mei is on this side, then you actually know it's probably a tachi, and if the mei is on that side, then it's probably a katana. So I'll leave it there. Now this little knife also has a tanto point in that it's curved. Now that's, I think, just because it's cheaper to produce it out of a factory like that, but there is no sort of distinct boshi like you would have on a katana or a wakizashi. So they are my desk knives. and my little model of my sword. I'm kind of attached to that because, like I say, I did used to actually have a sword. It was I only wore it on parade, of course. I'm old, but I'm not old enough to have seen swords in action. Anyway, there you go. Thank you very much.